Welcome to Hey, Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Racquets and Believe Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. On tonight's show, we've got another edition of The Deciding Point where we break down everything happening in the Division I college tennis world. Of course, last weekend was our first of conference tournament action, and boy, did it so thoroughly deliver. So much so that, of course, Chris and I had to hop on the podcast Saturday night to record an emergency edition of the show, as, of course, this past weekend, we saw both the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country lose their first matches in the case of TCU since the National Indoors, in the case of Wake Forest for the first time this season. Yeah, when something like that happens, you can always expect us to immediately hop on the podcast to offer our response. But of course, then we had Championship Sunday, another day that so thoroughly delivered. You thought there's no way the drama of Saturday could be topped. Right? Wrong. Anyone who was following that ACC championship match in Cary knows certainly Stanford versus Virginia. It delivered some drama. We got a breakdown here on tonight's show. Of course, we also want to offer some expanded thoughts on everything that happened in Cary, everything that happened down at South Carolina, where, of course, Texas captured the SEC championship, and, of course, offer our final thoughts on everything we learned from a week in person for me, on the broadcast for Chris, covering all things Big 12 championship action in Waco. Oh, by the way, there were countless other matches last weekend that will certainly impact what the NCAA field looks like. That field comes out on Monday. We are less than a week away from knowing what the postseason will look like. We are less than 14 days away from the start of the 2025 postseason. So we're ready to amp things up for the home stretch. Joining me tonight to help break everything down as he will throughout the course of May is the man you all know best right now as the most popular man in college tennis. Of course, we here know him best as the forefather of the College Tennis Ranks Formula predictions, never far from the listed UTR, a lean, mean Michigan Wolverine, the professor, a man whose phone is maybe busier than Adam Schefter's, even with the NFL draft coming up tomorrow. It's Chris Halioris joining us once again. Chris, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the program. Have you recovered from the action in Waco yet, my friend? How are you doing here this evening?
Oh yeah, I mean 5 days straight of that took a little recovery. Good to get a 1 day break on Monday if it was much of a break until Tuesday once we roll the rankings over. That's the day of the year when everybody, whether it's hey, do we have a chance to get into like 50 texts of, so where are we going to go? It's all of the above. I'm sure everybody else is sitting here playing with the scenarios as much as I am, seeing what gets teams in, what gets teams to host. But that's pretty much the week for me.
Yeah, it always takes a couple of days after being on the road for a week for the post-road hangover to hit me. It hit me hard yesterday. I took like a 3-hour nap, which I think at my age is probably something you don't get to do very frequently. Let me tell you, I think I grew like a 1/16 of an inch, Chris. I'm feeling confident. But yeah.
I mean, when you don't have a real job, it's kind of easy.
Mini break listeners across the globe suffering for that 3-hour nap. No, I do want to point out, it just is worth a shout out to your lovely wife, Chrissy, who I just want to know what goes through her head this time of year. Where, like, it could be 2:42 p.m. on a Tuesday. It could be 7:55 p.m. on a Sunday. Like, your phone is blowing up. What's her response? Is she like, who is calling you again?
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, who?
You got to have that sort of understanding. You can only be you if you have someone like her in your life. So shout out to Chrissy, and shout out to all the fans out there or all the significant others of fans out there who are tolerating you college tennis fans nonsenses, of course. It was one of those weekends, had to be locked into scoreboards, head on a swivel, switching between tabs as you tried to monitor everything happening across the country. Of course, the way to catch up on everything, Chris's website, collegetennisranks.com. If you go to the projected rankings right now, you will see a table that lists out so many different scenarios. What the projected cutoff line will look like, the different criteria for teams on that cutoff line. Are you an at-large team? Have you clinched your bid because of some sort of conference success? Are you in violation of the 500 rule? You also have the travel matrix up there, and rather than have me try to explain that and every other resource available, Chris, to perhaps try and save you some calls moving forward. Although, let the record show, guy fucking swims in this sort of attention. Like, this is his moment to shine. He loves it. So keep calling him. Don't make this an excuse to stop. But for those who may want to speed up that process, what can they use on the website right now?
Yeah. I got those texts yesterday. I'm sure you've gotten these. I said, oh, but trust me, I love them. Like, I don't, it's like my least productive, like, week of work all year, real work, right? Yeah, this is the real work, actually. Yeah, no, like you mentioned it. So, yeah, the projected rankings shows you just that at this time of year right now, really the what if page is better because it's now got it's just got boxes down below the projected rankings that show you every remaining conference tournament match there is. You can pick the winners. You can hit the one button that just says take all the higher ranked teams, and then go switch a couple other. If you're a Baylor or a Duke or a Texas A&M and you're trying to figure out how the hell am I getting a hosting spot, that's when you really start playing. Or if you're one of the teams on the bubble to get into the tournament, you start flipping things around to see what it is that's going to be important for you. And you can see exactly what's going to get you either a host or into the field just by playing with all the scenarios. And then, like you mentioned, on the main projected rankings page, you got the map, and below that, the travel matrix. Travel matrix, pretty self-explanatory. You can't play at the same site as another conference member. So the blacked out squares are two teams from the same conference. You can't travel there. The green ones are 400 miles or less, which is what the NCAA deems drivable. Anything over that's considered a flight. And the number one goal for them setting up the bracket is to minimize the number of flights. So, when you're a team like a Baylor, right, that has few options, although Baylor and Oklahoma both can only go to like TCU. So, Oklahoma's going to hit there, or a Kentucky that always goes to Ohio State or Wake Forest, because those are the two drivable schools when they're not hosting. You see all of that on there, and you can kind of start running through all the scenarios in your own head of what teams might go where and what that leaves open. So by all means, hit it up. And if you have feature requests, like the map thing was a cool new addition this year, please send them to me. I'm always looking for fun, good ideas to throw up.
No, it's a credit to you that you do all this for free as well, and you make it available publicly so that every coach has this as a resource. And yeah, I look forward to the day you launch, hopefully you with your wife, Chris and Chrissy's consulting firm, and you just consult with coaches. Hey, here's the optimal schedule, minimal cost for travel for you to sustain this sort of ranking. I know you think about those sorts of things. And by the way, we're like 6 weeks away from you getting into that sort of off-season project once again. But before we do, we got a lot of good tennis to discuss as that NCAA field takes shape. So again, to keep track of everything, head on over to collegetennisranks.com. Must-use resource for college tennis fans everywhere, of course. We wouldn't have the resources to do what we do here without the support we get from all of you, without the support we get from our friends at the Laurel Springs School. There's a reason they have been ranked among the best online private options available in the United States. To learn more about the resources they offer to every student in their charge, go to laurelsprings.com today. Laurel Springs School's partner of Cracked Racquets. All right, Chris, let's get into what was, again, a very, very fun weekend of conference championship action. And let's start by putting a final bow on what I think can be categorized as the chaos in Cary on Championship Sunday. Of course, there were plenty of fun matches along the way. We talked about a lot of them, whether it was Louisville's 4-3 win over Georgia Tech, Florida State surviving 4-3 over a Louisville team that, by the way, was playing really good ball come the end of the season. You had Duke's obviously win to get into the semifinals to thrust themselves back into the top 16 discussion as well. Then you had the semifinals, Virginia knocking off Wake Forest, handing the Deacs their first loss, despite the fact that the Deacs took the doubles point in that match. And yet you saw Jungjoon Kim hand Luca Pau a rare loss in singles play. All of that may have been topped by the chaos we saw in the Championship Sunday final. Of course, a matchup between Virginia and Stanford, their second on the season. You saw the Hoos grab the doubles point in that match. They get wins at the 2 and 3 spot. Stanford's Gonsick and Rivera, a 6-3 win at the top spot. Stanford responded. They grabbed 4 first sets in singles, winning in straight set wins, courts 3, 4, and 5. I mean, Basing, von der Schulenberg were so good at the 3 and 4 spots all week long. And when you were picturing what the best version of Stanford looked like to start the season, looked a lot like what we got from the card in singles throughout the course of this week in Cary. You also had Rezegi, as sound as at 5 or 6 as anyone. He gets a straight set win over Jung Joon Kim. Again, top 2 courts, Virginia takes first sets there. They also were able to force a third on court number 6 with Mons Dahlberg. And, again, shout out to Dylan Dietrich, the Eagle, delivering. We haven't talked about him as much this year. He's been really good at that number 2 spot for the Hoos. 6 and 2, he gets the win over Kyle Kang. But then you have the drama on court number 1. And obviously, look, Rafa Hodar has lost 1 dual match all season long coming into this one and hadn't lost at the top spot when competing for the Hoos. He also, of course, a couple weeks ago made the semifinals of a challenger event in the midst of a season, just further confirming the level we have seen from the former junior U.S. Open champion. He has put together as special of a freshman season as I can remember in recent memory. Wins the first set 6-3 over Samir Banerjee. Down in the second set, I don't know whether he was broken or held. I apologize. I forget here, but I think he gets broken 4-3-5 in that moment. Takes a ball, tomahawks it against the fence. Got a code violation for that, and because of that violation accumulated with other, I believe, overrules he had accumulated earlier in the match, he's defaulted from that number 1 spot. I believe ultimately that was point number 1 on the board for Stanford. And, again, I didn't give it to you in the right order there, but that was the big swing. That was one of the 2 courts. Virginia got a first set. Hodar gets defaulted in that moment of frustration. Certainly a mistake from the freshman. We can talk about more here in a moment. But again, it did feel like a swingy moment in this match, and certainly feels like it could have cost the Hoos a shot at that title in Cary here to end the week in what was otherwise a fantastic week for the Hoos. That was a lot of words. I apologize, Chris. Your thoughts on it all?
I mean, yeah, we have to talk about just the chaos with the default, right? And obviously, and you and I have talked about this. My take, there's only one way to make sure that you don't get defaulted for something like that, right? Don't do it. Plain and simple. And it was done and he was angry, and it was directed towards the Stanford players. And all I can say out of all of that is the Stanford bench did their job. If you can get into someone's head that bad that you're going to drive them to do something like that, that's like, what I would call being the good college fan. As long as you're not, saying
insulting
derogatory things, as long as it's all positive, but what you're doing is just annoying the heck out of that other person, which is what you're trying to do. You did your job. They got in his head. They ticked him off. He smashed the ball at him and got himself defaulted. So, he'll live and learn from that. But, props to the Stanford guys for even getting him there.
Well, no, I apologize for cutting you off. It's a massive, massive shame for Virginia, who beat Cal, who beats Wake Forest, who takes the doubles point in this match. And if they take the doubles point, they feel like we're up 2-0 because, again, Hodar has been that good, that sure of a thing for a Virginia team that's as uncertain as it has been since before that 2021 group. Maybe its most uncertain season since 2018, like year 1 for Pedroso, even pre-Nakashima. And through all of that, Hodar's been the rock at the top of the lineup, put the point on the board. This is why someone his age, no matter how good, how talented he is, it's the benefit of coming to college tennis, where you can make a mistake like this, and yeah, it really sucks to cost your team a chance at the conference title that, by the way, would have been indicative of what we always thought the ceiling for this Virginia team could be, to put together a week like this, and that's ultimately what you got to do to capture the NCAA title coming up. It's a massive mistake. I'm sure he would be the first to be accountable for it. I'm sure Andres Pedrosa will hold him accountable for it. And now they have 2 weeks to stew on this sort of anger and this sort of disappointment. which might be the scariest thing for a team this young, to have just such a clear catalyst to rally around and build upon. It's a massive unforced error, and there's no defending it. He wouldn't want us to defend it, nor do I imagine would anyone associated with the Virginia program. By the way, I don't know how many overrules he had the actual machinations. Was it clear-cut? This was fourth. It's got to be default, whatever that may be. But from talking to multiple people who were at the match and saw it happen, it was clearly a point penalty offense. Like, I do want to emphasize that for listeners who didn't get the chance to see it. It sucks to have a match that you can justifiably say you're probably picking Dahlberg over Rivera in that match on 6, and you feel like this might have legitimately swung the title for them. Now they got 2 weeks to respond to it.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could. The good thing for him is look, this is in the grand scheme of things, sure, it's a conference title, but that's not what
you play for stars on the chest at Virginia.
Yeah, that's not what they're playing for. They're playing for, that's right. They want star number 7, right? And that's what they're playing for. So they'll learn from it in the grand scheme of things. Maybe Coach Pedroso's got a conference title bonus that he just lost. Who knows? But I don't have any knowledge.
He'll sacrifice that for a year of Hodar.
Just saying, yeah. But yeah, they would much rather be set up to go for. And if in the grand scheme it helps them towards that, or it doesn't even damage it, it's not a big deal, and it's a learning lesson. Look, it's like, you're doing the football drills and you got guys trying to slap the ball out of your hands. This is the same thing. You got guys heckling you on the side. You have to learn to deal with that in college tennis. It's not like playing a challenger. You don't have guys there doing that in a challenger, right? You have that every day in a good college match. So just something he'll learn from it. I'm sure he's just got to understand. He's got to be a little more composed and a little more mature in that situation.
There's reasons that cliches become cliches. I talked about this last night with Jay in relation to Georgia losing those 2 matches to Texas A&M, and rallying the way they did last week in Auburn. It's the easiest message now for Coach Pedroso. It's, you guys had the chance to win a title. You beat the number 1 team in the country, and you gave it away. And if you here's the best part. It wasn't NCAAs. You got one more shot at a crown. Are we going to give this one away, or are we going to take it? And that's the rallying cry on the other side, because we should do some glass half full. What a moment for Stanford. A program that, I don't know how many people have a platform in college tennis. You and I are fortunate enough to be one of the few. We have not been kind to the Stanford Cardinal over the years, over the last half decade. And I feel like I have said that disclaimer on every show we've done this season, because this year has felt so unequivocally different for this Stanford group. And again, for them to drop the doubles point the way they did in this match and respond as well as they did 2 through 6, and obviously be in a position to take advantage of a moment like what happened on court number 1. Obviously what they were able to do against Duke in the semifinals, dropping the doubles point, bouncing back the way that they did. And again, on paper, the strength of this lineup should be the heart of it. Basing, von der Schulenberg, Rezegi. They go a combined 6-0 in the semifinal championship matches when facing, again, Duke, Virginia, respectively. This is what the best version of this team looks like. This team is tougher than teams of Stanford teams have passed. They're deeper than Stanford teams have passed. And I will say this, watching the celebration and the water being poured on Coach Goldberg mid-interview and his joy in his face, you're around this game long enough, you know when the joy is manufactured, and you know when the joy is real. And that joy was just so unequivocally real, because God has so many things broken against this Stanford program. And by the way, they dealt with COVID regulations in a way a lot of programs didn't. And it really did put a hamper on what they were able to do coming out of the pandemic, early 2020s. This is what Stanford men's tennis should be. And obviously to walk in and we will talk about it. 3 teams in new conferences win conference tournament crowns here in the Big 3. It's a moment they need to be like, we are a championship caliber team. Because TCU gave them the business in the indoor semifinals. Yeah, in the semifinals was not close. They responded to adversity in these 2 matches in ways I hadn't seen from them so far yet this season. And now there's a reason to believe. What are they? They jumped up in the projected rankings, I think, all the way up to number 4, which is like are 5 now, which is crazy. And we'll talk about the NC State of it all and how they're on the bubble now, which just feels insane. But yeah, they're up to 5 now in the projected rankings. And
with
it's
a
not
with an NCAA swap advantage over Virginia to get the 4 seed.
and it's not on paper. This team is for good. Like, it's not in theory here in 2025. It's in reality. And they needed that, Chris, and they got
Yeah, I feel like my last year's number 5 was just a year early.
it. Or the year before that.
Yeah,
Or the year
yeah,
before that. No,
until I finally vowed to stop picking them, and then this year they came around.
no,
Yeah,
that's always how it works. And
yeah,
again,
I mean, they've looked great down the stretch, and you accidentally said Goldberg instead of Goldstein.
I say Goldberg.
You
Sorry,
you
Goldstein.
did.
Paul Goldstein. I'm looking
He's
at it.
got Ben Goldberg on his mind for some reason.
Yeah, it's Paul. It's funny. I saw both Paul and Ben at the National Indoors, and I
Yeah,
actually think I saw Ben last, and so that's what we'll go with. But of the golds, it was Goldstein celebrating this past
but
weekend.
yeah, I mean they're really coming on. We talked about it last week. I thought the best version of this team would have Hudson Rivera in the singles lineup. That is who we saw there in the final. Obviously, that match went unfinished, but I just think too many weapons with that forehand, and I want to see him playing, and they look good right now. Rezagi's, you you know what you're getting out of those top 4 guys is if you've got a healthy, basing and a healthy Banerjee, and it comes down to, you got Rezegi, Rivera, and Godsick, and if you're getting 2 good performances from them, I mean, the singles lineup's brutal. It's still lots of questions about the doubles point against the top teams. It might come down to them having to win 4 singles matches, but against Virginia they did. They're definitely going to be a team to contend with.
No, it's again a credit to Stanford. They're up to 5 right now. Virginia's at 4. Will it be a swap, even though they're 1-1?
Yeah, if you look, I would have to look at the exact criteria at the moment.
I'll take your word for it. I trust you.
But yes, it is a swap right now between the two.
Interesting to note. And again, credit to Stanford. No doubt they will get to stay at home. When is the last time we didn't say during our selection show, oh, I can't wait to see Stanford on the road at Harvard. Oh, I can't wait to see Stanford on the road at Kentucky. I can't wait to see Stanford on the road. Not the case. They're going to be at home for the first 3 rounds and get to enjoy that new stadium lifestyle. A credit to them. Obviously, again, Wake Forest winning doubles, losing that match against Virginia. Cliche, but now Tony gets to say, guys, we can be beaten. Let's go to work these next 2 weeks. Duke sitting at 16 in the projected rankings. We can get into it more in some NCAA things, Chris, but are they the team, barring a UCLA, Michigan State type run to a Big Ten title? Are they the team? Shout out to you to playing out all the scenarios. That's, again, the master of the what if calculator. I'll have to work that in next year. Are they the team with the inside path?
I mean, yeah, it should, barring some sort of odd scenarios, those last 2 should be Duke and UCF, and right now Duke would have kind of they would own an NCAA swap for the 15 seed, but it's tough to unseat them. Michigan State, I can't find a scenario, even if they run the Big Ten, to get them in. I think they can get it up to 17 or 18, but I can't get them to 16. UCLA can absolutely get 16. It looks like, though, that not only do they need to win the Big Ten, they need a result in the very first match between Illinois and Oregon to help them out, potentially, because there's a big Texas A&M UCLA battle there, depending on the result of that match. So, but yeah, barring something like a UCLA run, or a Nebraska or an Illinois run, which would greatly benefit Baylor. Baylor's not out of this yet either. Now, mathematically, those scenarios seem highly unlikely because they need Illinois or Nebraska to basically beat Ohio State. So that doesn't sound very easy to do in Columbus, but if that happens, Baylor's right back in the thick of the hosting battle as well.
Yeah. All right. Again, you can run all the scenarios on Chris's website. He's tried to run every permutation, I promise. But certainly Duke feeling more comfortable than they were coming into Cary, and they played their way into it. Impressive stuff. Really fun week of action. And shout out to the crowds. Everyone shows up to Cary. The photo of when my dad calls is him on a swing set at that Cary tennis park taking a work call, and whatever. He's not going to listen to this. My mom's going to listen to
Taking a
this.
work call on the swing set.
Well, here's the best part. Mom, don't share that I shared this detail. He won't have to hear this. The best part of the photo is he's on the swing set, and because he's on the swing set, his khaki shorts are sagging, and you just see full boxer. And it's just like this man who is very accomplished in his job and a voice of authority in his work. I'm like, if they could see the location, and by the way, shouts out he can do all of that, and he always came to watch our matches, even when it was club tennis in college. Like, fantastic father. But I was like, what a man. Like, in a photo, if I were to describe my father, it's this photo.
How is that not like the meme on your phone saying Mary's #1 guy?
If you
Like,
don't think I have so many different memes associated with that photo, you know me well to know I have many a memes associated with that one. But again, Cary Tennis Park, great event. ACC champions Stanford in their first conference tournament. A shout out to the Cardinal. Let's move next to Waco, where Arizona, you could argue, had their first moment of the season. And I was joking about this with Clancy Shields, who was very quick to point out when I made the point. He goes, oh, Alex, you're just going to forget about our early season Florida State win. You're going to forget about the fact that we got a good win early over USC. We got a good win over Pepperdine, San Diego. You're just going to forget about all these things. I was like, no, I'm just saying it feels like the signature moment for Arizona in a year. Those signature moments have come from what Colton Smith has done on the pro circuit, winning a match at Indian Wells, winning his first challenger, making a quarterfinal at the 250 on clay in Houston. I'm not to say this team isn't good. They're 24-4 overall, and now they're Big 12 champions, and now they've conquered their nemesis here in 2025, the best singular rivalry between two programs we've had this year as they knock off UCF in what was a really fun championship match. The Wildcats ultimately 4-1 winners over the Knights. The most impressive part was how they did it after dropping the doubles point in dramatic fashion, and you and I were on the call for that match. Yeah, they grab sets on 1 and 3 ultimately, but it felt like they were down for 45 minutes in that doubles point, and Arizona must have gone 0 for 12 on breakpoint chances at 1 and 3. It's a credit to UCF. They grabbed the doubles point for the third straight time against this Arizona team. You start to think to yourself, oh my God, is UCF going to do it again? Like, fresh off of their TCU win, they had the banger, the branger, Liam Branger, back in the lineup as well. And yeah, it was more of a placeholder than him at his best, given the injury layoff, but he was back. It was able to push everyone down, give them that sort of flexibility. And yet, boy, Arizona jumped on him in singles. They're very close to taking 6 first sets. They grabbed 5, and they grabbed 4 straight set victories. We're close to a 5th as well. Obviously, Colton and Jay continue to do their thing, and you look at the numbers now for this Arizona team. Jay Friend, Colton Smith, a combined 36-1. They are overall 44-4, but those two, when they play in the big matches, 36-1 at the top 2 spots. Goyo and Frisokos even blush at those numbers. That's ridiculously good. Of course, they've also got, it's always good when you got an Alexander who goes by Sasha. Just adds to the street cred. They've got Sasha Rosen, obviously, who is now 19-2 overall, and he gets a big win, obviously, to clinch it, fitting, given he has so often been that third sure thing in their lineup. But for me, Chris, in person, the revelation was everything else. We knew Kasper Christensen, what he could be as a piece, but getting to see the freshman, Big Z, Zoran Ladowski, and then, of course, the Goose, Philip Gustafsson, this team is good. They've been in the rankings because they were ranked high preseason, and, again, they haven't lost any bad matches this year and have beaten, for the most part, who they are supposed to beat. But getting to see it in person, getting to see them respond to that doubles point, going and grabbing a championship against their nemesis so far this season to date. It was a moment I think Arizona really needed, given you have those 2 young pieces in the center of the lineup, given Rosen, a sophomore, but didn't really play last season, Christensen in and out of the lineup in his time, no longer the case this year. They needed a run like this to just kind of say, similar to Stanford, no, we are that good. We are in the mix. And given that they're certainly, even against everyone, even you'd say against Wake Forest, against Texas, God, do I want to watch Colton versus Timo again so badly. Just please give us that match in the NCAA tournament. Sorry, Bruce. I'm sure you don't want to see that. I'm sure, I'm sure part of him does want to see it. I'm sure Clancy was like, yeah, let's do that. We want him again. I think Arizona needed this. They got it. I was impressed by what I saw, Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, anytime you lose to a team twice in the year, a team that you especially feel like you're better than, right? I mean, it's not like, yeah, if you go and you're an SEC team and you lose to Texas twice, they're okay. Texas is just better than you. Arizona feels like they're better than almost just about anybody in the country, but they've lost to them twice. They wanted the revenge, and that was going to be, all kinds of momentum for them. And it's just I've talked to a few coaches even post that match now, and the fear is real there because there are just so many fewer pathways to victory over them than there are so many other teams because you just know that like 1 and 2 are going to be very tough to win. Yes, you can. You're probably not beating Colton Smith.
Yeah.
You can beat Jay, but it is very, very difficult.
So just to interject, and I apologize for interrupting, but in person, I'd forgotten how good Jay was. And watching the depth and how easy it is for him to generate it both wings, I was like, oh yeah, that's why he's freaking 5 in the country, because when he's in rhythm, as he really was in that final against obviously a short-footed, I should say, Branger, like, God, is it good.
Yeah, and you almost need to like if I was playing him once you get into the NCAA tournament and they're big matches, it's going to be really hard for it not to be a very, electric environment. And he just feeds off that. If I was playing him, I would be the most silent guy in the world. I wouldn't say a damn thing the entire time trying to keep him from getting into it and, and getting amped up because he just feeds off of that. And yeah, he's so good. And then you've got, Sasha Rosen at 5 who just has lost 2 matches?
19-2.
Yeah. So you're looking at 1-2-5 that, it's going to take a miracle to get one of those. Now, God forbid you give them doubles.
Well, just to that point, the most impressive thing was against Baylor in the semis. Again, a road match in that semis. Baylor won doubles and first sets at 3, 4, and 6, which if you're crafting out your recipe, that's how you beat Arizona. And Arizona wins the match 4-2.
But it's if that's what you think obviously that's the easiest path, but it's also, it's a very slim path to go something other than that. Like, Colton Smith hasn't lost. Jay's lost once. Sasha's lost twice. Like, it's very difficult to get there. And so you start looking at some of these scenarios. Like, if you look right now, we've got NC State 7, Arizona 10. That would be your first match. Super regionals, NC State hosting. But if San Diego's kind of playing blocker between NC State and Columbia in the middle, if San Diego jumps up by winning their conference tournament and puts NC State Columbia back to back, NC State loses that tiebreaker and drops all the way to 9. And the question is, and I want you to think about this one for a second. You're NC State. Would you rather play Arizona at home or go on the road to Columbia?
Haven't they played Columbia already this season?
Yeah, and Columbia got the win, right?
That's a great question.
That's a really
I'd rather
tough
be at
call,
home.
right?
I'd rather be at home. And
I think that's what you have to say is I'd rather be at home, but my God, choosing to play Arizona, like
question.
It's ridiculous.
I want no piece of Arizona. I was talking about this with, again, our producer behind the scenes.
Thanks, Coach Dunbar, rocking my Arizona gear here tonight that he gave me a cup of water.
I was talking with our producer behind the scenes, Nicholas Gruskin, about this Arizona team. And again, Nick thinks he discovered Jay Friend, which isn't false because Nick was in person, one of like 6 people who weren't associated with the team who was in person for Arizona's win over Texas last year at the indoors. He literally was like, Alex, I'm going to Billie Jean King. I was like, but I'm at Columbia. He's like, yeah, but I'm going to watch this match. He's like, I'd rather see them first, and then I'll come see you, I promise. And so, again, that's why he gets a say. And he's just like, Alex, I'm telling you, I saw Jay Friend. That, Hoyer, all the different things. I was plotting out the book that we're going to write someday, Chris, when I go on sabbatical from, as you say, my not real job. And we do the definitive college tennis
Well, I can
history.
join you in a not real job.
Yeah, and we'll do like 2 pages on those guys who, like, you got to just shout out. Like, Hoyerall will be one of those guys. Gadjev will be one of those guys. Like, guys who are such big factors to the most, like, serious storylines in seasons that you'll just forget. We'll name all those guys over the years. All of that is to say,
Tim
uh,
Siebert.
yeah, another good one. All of that is to say that I think Arizona needed this moment to just kind of, again, see all the scenarios. Like you said, they wanted that UCF match. They got it. They put themselves down again, and they responded. Obviously, for the Knights to get that TCU win, they play themselves in the top 16 for Baylor. I mean, again, just the worst possible case scenario. The moment you see Federico go down, just again, so tough. And now they are on the outside looking in. To Chris's point, there is a scenario where Baylor still ends up top 16, but so tough. Yeah, I mean, again, TCU we haven't talked about. I guess let's do that here quickly. We haven't seen Pedro since the Texas match. Jack hurt his ankle in the round of 16. Federico goes down, in the quarters. Federico goes down in the semi. This team is banged up. Does it impact your opinion at all?
It has to. I mean, I don't know the status of Pedrico, and frankly, I'm not even going to bother asking because unless I get yeah, he's 100% healthy, good to go. Like, what are what are they going to say? I'd rather just wait and find out, let it be a surprise. But he did not look good, couldn't walk afterwards. So I don't have, at a minimum, it's something he's got to manage. And then obviously with Pedro, hopefully we see Pedro. But even if they've just been holding him out for precautionary reasons and he's 100%, like he hasn't played a match in Lord knows how long. He's just not match ready. So yeah, I think there are definitely concerns to be had there. And I think there are teams that go, if we're 15 and that's where we go on the super regional weekend, it might not be the worst place in the world.
Yeah, it's going to be, again, fascinating to see what version of TCU. We didn't see Gorsny till the round of 16 last year. That turned out fine. But you saw Fernley, you saw PJ, you saw Maxted, you saw Vivez, you saw the anchors. You just haven't seen those anchors as frequently for TCU this season. And yet, if it's the best version of them, if everyone's healthy, if Cooper isn't getting sick 2 minutes before their first match begins, we saw what this team could do at the indoors. There's another scenario that plays out where Steph doesn't serve like John Isner, and they emerge as the national indoor champions. And so, certainly, Big 12 championship was great to be in person. Looking forward to getting back down to Waco. But obviously it's Arizona's moment, as in their first season in the conference, they captured the crown, of course. We want to talk about the SEC as well and some of the other action from this weekend, get you ready for the final weekend of the regular season as well. We got a special guest, though, joining us here on the show tonight to help talk through some of the action that went down at South Carolina. So we are going to bring him on here in a moment. Going to step away. Don't go anywhere. You're watching another edition of The Deciding Point live on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. And joining us now on the show, a man whose team is fresh off of a semifinal appearance at last week's SEC tournament. Of course, a team that has also played their way into the top 16 through no help through our commentary here on this show all season long. We wanted to let him come on the show for a little victory lap. It is Tennessee men's tennis associate head coach Matt Lucas. Coach, thank you for taking the time to join us here tonight. I think you're wearing the Tennessee gear far better than Chris is here this evening. But outside of that alone, how are you doing here tonight?
Oh, great. Thanks for having us. And like you said earlier, I think you did help us a little bit to reach that that hosting spot. The boys keep receipts. So no, but happy to be here and appreciate it. I'm glad to see Chris has a hat on forward tonight.
Yeah. Don't worry, Coach. I got more receipts coming.
Yeah. Well, again, we're so happy to have you here, and I do want to talk through obviously what has been one heck of a year for your group, and to play as many close matches as you guys have. It's a testament to you that you have any hair left on your head. And just again, I can only imagine what it's been like on your end. But before I get into your team specifically, just in relation to that SEC conference this year, what was
Yeah.
it like preparing for it every weekend? How do you go about communicating to the guys like, hey, there really are no weekends off here on our schedule?
Yeah, sure. I think that was a difficult part for us at the beginning. Is we had 9 new players.
Mhm.
I'm a new coach, so it was a lot of turnover from last year's team. I think watching you guys last week, you said we lost a generation of players, and that was true. I mean, it was only Shun and James Newton that were on the team last year. And we got 11 guys on the team now. So I think that was a challenging bit for us at the beginning, and I think it's a testament to the guys to buy into it. And we have a lot of guys that haven't played at that level, to be honest with you. And so it was a learning curve for them, and to be understanding of what it takes week in and week out in this conference. And like you said, it's a gauntlet, it's a grind every week. There's not one easy match, and but I'm really proud of our effort and our guys and their grit to kind of see that through.
Yeah. No, it's a credit to you guys getting hot, particularly down the home stretch of that SEC season. Was there a moment where you felt like a match? I mean, again, I could pick the match. You want to go 4-3 Auburn? You want to talk 4-3 Vanderbilt? You want to talk 4-3 Florida? There's a lot of 4-3s we could talk about.
For
Was there
sure.
a moment you saw where you felt like, okay, it's really starting to fall into place for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was one specific time. I think, we've always been really good at the top. I mean, Shun and AK have done a tremendous job all year, and we just needed a little bit more support down the lower end of the lineup, and we started getting that. Different guys stepped up. I mean, Allen clinched against LSU, Cruiser clinched against Vandy, Shun clinched against Auburn. I think we went 6 or 7 and 3 in 4-3 matches this year, something like that. We played quite a few of them. But different guys started stepping up throughout the year, and I think that they all started to believe a little bit more in themselves, and that they could actually do it, seeing their teammates do it, which was, as a coach, is really neat to see.
Yeah, look, you're not going to probably necessarily want to call a guy out, but I'll do it for you. The
Okay.
reason that we've been so harsh, if you will, on the team this year is we know that you had two studs at the top of the lineup, right?
Yeah.
But all the questions in the world at 3 through 6, and in my eyes, the MVP of the team this year has to be Ian Cruz because him stepping up in that 6 spot and what he's done. Like
Yeah.
you're basically, you're 3, 4, 5, you're basically 500 at those positions, but you're stellar at 1, 2, and 6. And Ian stepping up at 6 has just it's been the difference in what I think has really been able made you able to win those 4-3 matches and put you in those positions. And he's a transfer again. You got a transfer in Ian Cruz from Belmont. You got Jasudison from Drexel. You got yourself coming up from North Florida. Like
Yeah.
a lot of new guys, right? But I think he's really, to me, that was the difference maker. What's it been like having him?
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. Actually, it's funny. We played him in Jacksonville last year, North Florida against Belmont, and I think he played 2 or 3 that match against us. And I was like, yeah, he's not bad, pretty good player, but he's completely changed his body. He's bought in. I mean, he's doing the running. He's really embraced the SEC kind of mentality, and I couldn't be more proud of him. And like you said, I mean, I think he's 15 and 3 at the 6 slot, which is, I mean, I don't care who you're playing. Like, you're playing the conference that we play in, and then our non-conference slate. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. So
Yeah, he was
he's
9-3 in the SEC there,
yeah,
which
there you go.
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and a bunch of three setters, and he's taking pride in his fitness, and yeah, Ian's been tremendous for us all year. And so I think, like you said, you mentioned it. I mean, Alex is great at one, or Shun's great at one, whichever one plays one or two, and then having Cruiser down there at six, it gives us a lot of belief in what we can do.
No, and you mentioned those top two guys. A couple of questions about them. First, just
Yeah,
on Shinsuke, and anyone who listens to the show, I'm a math nerd. I love clubs as well that I can turn with that math. The 100-100 club, 100
yeah,
singles wins, 100 doubles wins. And in an era where we saw a lot of those players who reached that club have 5 years to do it, he's done
yeah,
it in 4. Just to have him at the top of the lineup, that returning senior, that connective thread to Tennessee teams past.
yeah.
Talk me through the role he has played in this year's success.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wasn't around him those first 3 years, but when I joined in the fall, the first trip I went on was a hidden duel at LSU, and Jaime was like, "Here, I want you to take Shun for a little bit," and just immediately you could just tell like he's just a rock star. I mean, in everything that he does. The way he competes, the way he trains, we do sprints, he's going to be first. When we're doing stuff in the weight room, he's going to be working the hardest. Like he just gets it, and it's been a pleasure to be around him. And I think, Woody and I have asked him this year because he is the lone guy that has any kind of playing experience that was on the team last year that's had success. Newt's played a little bit in doubles at the end in the SEC tournament, NCAA's, but we've asked him to take a little bit more of a vocal leadership role. He's a pretty quiet kid to be honest, but he's stepped up and he's shown the guys and he's been vocal with those guys and pushed and prodded and sometimes screamed and said, "Look, this is not the Tennessee way, and we need to pick things up." And yeah, it's man, 100 wins. I think it's 128 in singles and 103 in doubles or something like that in a 4-year time period. It's with the schedule, like I said, that we play. I mean, he's just our rock, and we're very lucky to have him, and be
I've
sure to miss him.
I apologize for interrupting there at the end. I've asked the coaches over the years, when you have guys like him and Alex at the top two spots who you
Yeah,
can interchange, and to your guys' I don't know if it's credit or fault, I guess let's see the results and play out, but
yeah,
you've made an effort to alternate between those 1 and
hmm
2 spots, and obviously you don't have NCAA singles tournament considerations this year in a way you might have in years past. Was it just to keep what was the reasoning, I guess, behind the swapping as opposed to one here, one there? And is that something you guys might continue in the postseason?
yeah. I mean, I think fatigue kind of plays a little bit into it. If you're playing number one, I mean, we played Michigan State at one. I mean, just you can go. We played Ozon. We played Kenta Miyoshi. We played all these guys. I mean, it's tough to just continually just be in those battles. And not that two's that much easier, but there is a little bit of a difference. And so we wanted to keep each guy fresh. And if we felt like one guy was getting physically or just mentally exhausted, we could kind of interchange those. And we had that flexibility, which was, something that was unique and we were lucky to have. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the basis for it.
No, makes a lot of sense to me. And again, both guys have succeeded in both roles. My last question for you, then, Chris, I'll give you
Yeah.
the final word here. If you see the scoreboard and it's 3-2 or 3-all overall, do you just know, like, all right, where's Alejandro Moreno? Like, I know it's on his court. Like, let me
Yeah.
just go look. Like, I got to find
Yeah.
where he is in the building. And do you just know it's going to come down to him?
Yeah, we do. It's funny. You'll know where he is because you'll hear him. Yeah, I mean, Moreno's been he's been a clincher for us this year. He's stepped up in big moments and kind of gone for his shots, and he's been a rock down there when we've really needed him. But yeah, I mean, the amount of 4 threes we played, he's had the most time in the last match on for sure.
It's been fun to
And
watch
and
you.
and honestly, he freaking loves it. He he loves it. If he's listening right now, I told him I was going to be on. I know he loves those situations. So
He
we're
should love him. He thrives in them. Again,
yeah,
it's that sort of energy you hope is the best of college tennis. And so, Chris, but yes, I wanted to give you the final question.
Yeah, I'm curious on the Moreno front. I know he's a Knoxville kid, went to Auburn and then came back home, right? I'm assuming, I haven't been there this year for a match because we've been broadcasting all of them. I'm assuming he's got a bunch of family, friends, et cetera, in the crowd behind him.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the Spanish Armada when he's playing. I mean, you should see it. Like whatever court, he's played 4 or 5, three lately now. Whichever court he's on, behind him is like 50 to 75, just people going nuts, and it's really awesome to see.
Yeah, no, so my last question for you, Coach. I know, don't give me the standard Coach BS politically correct response here, but NCAA selections come out.
Yeah.
Do you at least at a minimum, are you looking to go, hey, you're looking right now, you're in that 14 range, right? You could be 14. Maybe there's a way you could be 13. Maybe there's a way you could be 15. I don't know. Do you look just to see like, hey, when it comes to that super regional round, just to get an idea in your head, you go, hey, if we're 14, who's that 3 that we might end up going to see and start thinking about, okay, I know some of these guys, or I need to reach out to. Granted, you got to get through a week before that, but are you paying attention to that come selection day and the day or so after that?
No, because I have you doing it for me. I mean, you're doing all that stuff for me, so I just listen to you guys. I don't have to do anything. I think there is a little bit of it. Kudos to you, and that the site is unbelievable, and the work that you put into it. I mean, I'm flabbergasted of how much time you put into it, and it's really awesome that you guys are just representing our sport so well. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a tiny bit of you do look at it a little bit. All right, if we're I think we're 15 this week when the rankings came out, and I think we could go to 14 or whatever. I think a lot depends on the Big Ten tournament, but you look at it and like, oh, Texas is 3. All right, we've already played them twice, or there might be an ACC team, Virginia at 4. It enters your mind, but at the end of the day, like we're probably going to play 2 4-3s in the 64 round and the 32 round if we get there. So we'll just take it one match at a time.
Yeah, well, we are certainly looking forward to it. And again, a team that we did not give as much credit as you guys so thoroughly deserve, thoroughly earning of the place in the top 16 they currently hold, 10-8 overall to end the regular season. Associate head coach Matt Lucas, thank you for taking the time to join us, and obviously good luck to you in the Vols.
Of course, guys. Thank you. Cruiser was hitting some serves today for you guys, so he's getting that arm warmed up.
We're ready for that butts up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Cruiser
ready.
Can go underhand. Is Jasutis and nailing Gruskin? That's what counts.
Well, so that's the big question: is what's the rule you guys do at Vol? Is it service line to baseline, service line to back? Like what's the go-to?
What is it? Service line, baseline.
Okay. I can handle service line. I'm tough.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
Cheeks of steel. Cheeks
of steel. Yeah.
But no,
it's worse when you get hit in the calf, I think. Or the Achilles. Maybe.
And I'm a kneecap hit away from the ACL being gone. And so Chris is a kneecap away from full-on, like, nursing home.
Replacement.
Yeah, exactly. But, no, Coach, appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
Good luck to you in the Vols.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everything you guys do for us. All the best.
Welcome back in, everyone. Always fun to have a live guest on the show. Thank you to Westoff for making it possible. Thank you again to Associate Head Coach Matt Lucas and the Tennessee Vols, who, I'm glad they have a moment to certainly make us taste, eat our own crow. That's the word I was looking for there. But, all right, we got a lot still to get to. Let's rapid fire through it here, Chris, down the home stretch. Next up, I want to talk about the SEC championships. And, again, of the tournaments, this one was the most straightforward. Now, that's not to say there weren't good matches along the way, but ultimately it was Texas. It was always Texas. Yeah, a late hiccup as they were banged up final weekend of the season. They took a late season SEC loss. You look at their wins, 4-1 over Auburn, 4-2 over Tennessee, 4-1 over South Carolina to take the SEC crown. Legou now up to the number 1 singles ranking in the country with his success. I believe he was the most outstanding player, deservedly so. No Ojakar back yet, but you're starting to see Lucas Brown back. You're starting to see Seb Gorsny back. You're starting to see Jonah Braswell. For him to get that clinch, for a guy who you feel like is always on the court in those scenarios, and unfortunately we just hadn't seen him in a moment like that on the right side of one, for him to be the guy to ultimately get over the finish line, even though they were otherwise in control. Huge moment for him personally. It was always Texas. Like, they did it very quietly. This team took one loss in SEC play, Chris, in a very good SEC conference. And that one loss, again, they were shorthanded for. We haven't seen him with Ojakar in a while. If they get him back for the NCAA tournament, we know this team can absolutely beat anyone on the right day. Texas is really good. Like, they are a clear-cut Tier 1 contender going into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about them right now. I feel a little more solid just from a health standpoint about them than I do about TCU at the moment, because TCU just had some things happen. I think Texas is they're kind of on that they're coming out of the valley now and picking back up. We've seen Gorsny back in the lineup. He looks like he's good to go. Lucas Brown is back playing doubles. Maybe he'll be ready for singles. And I think it was just management for, just trying to make sure that they could get get Ojakar. So now they just need two of Erickson, Ojakar, and Brown. As long as they've got two of them in there along with Gorsny, they're good. And I think we'll see that they will have two of those three, and it won't be, them having to go down to play Evan Burnett at 6, which got a little bit problematic for them. So I think you feel pretty good about the lineup right now if you're Texas. And yeah, they rolled through. I mean, I thought that was going to be potentially a very interesting match. I'll say that the match South Carolina played, you always say it jokingly, like when Texas finished, they were like, yeah, hope South Carolina and Mississippi State play like a bunch of 3-set breakers. Well, they finished with 2 3-set breakers, and you saw Yelani Sarr like doubled over on the fence after every point. I think that just took something out of them. Texas just absolutely rolled through the final.
No, and again, credit to Tennessee, by the way, in the semis. They took doubles in 3 first sets against Texas, who managed to rally back the clinch from Lagoo in 3 sets at the top spot. Huge for South Carolina, a team that we thought was top 16 coming out of the SEC tournament, but for them to get to play that tournament at home and for them to make the final and, again, get a really good win, as you mentioned, in the semifinals 4-3 over Mississippi State. For Connor Thompson, after having the injury last year, to have this sort of moment in one of his final weekends on the job at home, it's everything you love about college tennis. South Carolina is clearly top 16 good, and they have played their way into the top 16 seeds, a team that was, I don't want to say left for dead, but out of the picture coming out of the national indoors. It's such a thoroughly exceptional conference season, and again, so thoroughly deserving of playing their way into the top 16. A tough loss for Mississippi State, certainly, in that semifinal, but they're going to be top 16 as well. Yeah, it was always Texas, though. They proved it from the start of the season that they were the class of the SEC. That's who everyone was chasing, and even when they got a shot at them at home, again, Texas too good for South Carolina in that final. They take the title. Worth noting again, Stanford, Arizona, Texas, all newcomers to their conference, all capturing the conference championships. By the way, there were a lot of good SEC matches, along the way. One thing we were monitoring last week was, of course, the Vanderbilt storyline. Vanderbilt ultimately is going to finish under 500, and thus they are just out of that NCAA cut line. You look at the projections right now, Vanderbilt currently sitting, at 44. They'd be in by ranking 12 and 14, though, unfortunately, overall, so they will not be getting in. But when you start to look at that cut line, Chris, you start to think about some of the other conferences. Did the highest-ranked teams win their conference tournament? Did a lower-ranked team come up, grab that bid, and now that high-ranked team is going to have to go in through an at-large bid? We saw that happen, obviously, in a couple of different conference tournaments. In the case of USF, they drop a match 4-3 to Rice. Rice then ultimately knocks off Memphis 4-2 in the conference championship to secure the conference crown. Obviously, for Rice means they are getting in as they capture the American Athletic Conference tournament title. FAU, though, going to get in as well. Now, for what it's worth, Rice is ranked 46. The cut line is currently 47, according to Chris's projections. But, again, that was an upset. It would have been a spot, certainly, you feel like would have opened up. Rice wouldn't be ranked as high as they are without the success that they had. So I thought that was a big one. Obviously, you had San Diego. Still no Vasa. Doesn't seem like they're going to get him back for the remainder of this season, and yet they knock out Pepperdine. Very impressed. I don't think they're going to have him back, but I'm not sure. You never know. I hate speaking when I don't know for certain. So, anyways, no Vasa here this weekend. 4-2, though, win for the Toreros over Pepperdine. They grab the doubles point. Tarvik gets a straight set win. Clausen, a straight set win, and Adrian Barrett with the clinch on court number 3. Heck of a season for the freshman. That was one we were monitoring. You also had Harvard Columbia. Columbia 4-1 win over the Crimson. They take the doubles point, get wins at the top 3 spots. Zhang, Kotzen, Westphal, all doing the job. Again, Columbia right now on the outside looking in, but God, is that a dangerous, dangerous number 9 seed if they are indeed headed somewhere for the round of 16. You also had Harvard 4-1 over Cornell. Good win for Penn that as of right now gets them inside that NCAA tournament cut line or right near it. No, Penn currently sitting at, they're 45 in the rankings, but they're 52 in the projected.
They got crushed they've got 3 wins over Yale, and Yale drops a bunch of spots in the double run in the rankings, and it just absolutely crushes Penn.
Devastating, as again, good win for them. Princeton also 4-2 win. Speaking of Yale, and then last but not least, some Big Ten results to take note of. Nebraska, what a year they have had. They're getting into the NCAA tournament in year 2 under head coach Peter Cobelt. Nebraska 4-2 win over USC. You had that. The Michigan win. Again, regardless of what happens this week at the Big Ten tournament, they are getting in. You also, how about Oregon? 4-3 victory over Illinois in Eugene. They grab a dramatic doubles point. They get the clinch 4-6 at the number 2 spot. Always fun when you have a 4-3 match with all straight set wins. And then, look, it's one of the low-key rivalries just because these two schools playing against each other means so much to the state. They always pack the house. It's not very often in history you can say the Michigan State men beat Michigan. You can say that here today, as you can hear it in my voice, Chris. Michigan State 4-2 win over Michigan. No Gavin, no Kate for Michigan, and yet they were frisky. Steiglander played his best match of the season with the win at 4. Cooksey, a win over Ozan. It speaks to he has been one of the most improved players of this 2025 season, yet way too much depth. Mitchell Sheldon's damn good as a freshman. He gets the straight set win at 5. They win at 6. Doubles was frisky for a second until it wasn't. I mean, the moment Michigan State took doubles, you just felt like Michigan was playing with a hand tied behind their back with all the injuries. Still a fun match. Great win for the Spartans. They'll be looking for scenarios and telling Chris he's wrong by playing the what-if calculator somehow to find their way to 16. But those were all the other notable results. Chris, you got any thoughts on whether it be San Diego, Columbia, Big Ten-ish, Big Ten season? What you got for me?
Yeah, I think, well, that the Oregon-Illinois rematch here, day 1, is just so fascinating for multiple reasons. Oregon probably needs the win to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, it in all likelihood, if they don't win, they're out. I mean, they're right there on the bubble, but they've probably got to win. And not only that, but I had mentioned earlier that final hosting spot is potentially, depending on other results further down the line in the Big Ten, but that match could matter to teams like Texas A&M, like the other right behind A&M, and I'm drawing a complete or UCLA, UCLA, Texas A&M, Baylor, all of those teams, or whether it's Duke getting in, could hinge on that match. So it's a really key first round match in the Big Ten tourney. Then obviously the rest of the results play out will have some impact as well. But I think that's the one to watch. It's the only big Power 4 left. The other things though that I'd be watching, if you're one of those teams on the cut line, like a Georgia Tech right now, or like an Oregon, or you're right in that area, you're particularly watching the Mountain. You're watching Boise State and UCSB, the Mountain West and the Big West out there, because those two those are two teams inside the cut line right now that if they were to somehow drop their conference tournament, probably gets a bid stolen and the cut line moves up. So you're keenly watching just to make sure that UCSB and Boise State do indeed win their conference tournament and keep it to a one bid conference.
Fair enough. And by the way, other conference winners: Rice, Stanford, just to list them all from this past weekend. Rice, Stanford, North Alabama, Arizona, St. John's, Gardner-Webb, Middle Tennessee, Buffalo, Binghamton, Texas, Samford, Alabama State, Denver, Old Dominion, Abilene Christian, and then shout out Bucknell. First win over Navy in program history. They were 0-52 coming in. They get the win. I just interviewed Bucknell men's tennis head coach Jason Cohen on the Cracked Interviews podcast here this week. You can go check out that interview now. Shout out to the Bison through to the NCAA tournament with their victory over Navy. Of course, we do have more action ahead, but just quickly, I know we've alluded to it all night long here. Right now, looking at Chris's website, 47, UC Irvine, last at-large team in. Right now, number 48, Oregon. They play Illinois again. Big Ten tournament. They win that. I imagine they would jump back above UC Irvine and solidify themselves a spot. Memphis, North Carolina, Penn, those next group of teams out. Man, the thought of no UNC at the NCAA tournament, probably a storyline we didn't spend enough time talking about here this season. Obviously, you look inside the cut line right now. Who's sweating? UC Irvine, of course. Arkansas, right now they're at 43. They're an at-large team. But again, if another team, as Chris calls it, steals a bid, or as I like to say, earns a bid, they might start to sweat a little bit as well. But Boise State 42, but they still have their conference tournament here this weekend. I'm excited to be on the call for it. Any other NCAA things we missed, Chris, or you want to hit the rankings?
I think we can hit the rankings. I think
All right, let's get to it. Where things stand for us. One more week of play before the NCAA tournament begins. Chris Halioris, I'm going to run you through my tiers. You tell me what you do and don't like. Tier 1, even after their loss, Wake Forest is still my 1. Texas is still my 2. And then because it's a shell of TCU, but we know what the best version looks like, they have fallen to 3, but I'm going to keep them in Tier 1. Is that fair to you?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Texas TCU are basically like they have been all year. They're a pair, and yeah, right now, just health form wise, you have to give the nod to Texas, where it was previously TCU.
All right, I have a new introduction to tier number 2, and I've reorganized my rankings. Virginia back up to 4 for the first time in a long time. Welcome back, who? Stanford's up to 5. NC State's fallen to 6, but I'm not going to let one loss cloud what was otherwise an unbelievable season for the Wolfpack. San Diego 7, Ohio State's my 8, Columbia 9, Cal 10, and I have moved Arizona up to tier number 2. They have earned that benefit of the doubt, winning the Big 12 tournament title, responding to the Baylor match, responding to the UCF deficits the way they did. That's my tier 2. What's your biggest qualms?
I don't know. You have to put Arizona in tier 2. I mean, no qualms there.
Okay, same order. You fine with Virginia, Stanford, NC State, San Diego? I mean, again, it's all nitpicking, but that's the order I went with, and it honestly feels pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you might want to say Stanford over Virginia, but I'm with you. I would still leave it where it's at simply because I do believe that if Hodar doesn't get defaulted there, we very easily could have been looking at a 4-3 Virginia win, at which isn't going to happen again. You probably make them a favorite if they played. But yeah, no qualms. I think the order is good.
What do you think? What's the one thing Virginia's done that no one else has done this season, Chris? They beat Wake, and they lost doubles, and they still beat Wake. Gotta factor that in now to this part of the season. Next up, I have a 9-team tier. I go Mississippi State 12, South Carolina 12, Mississippi State 13, UCF 14, Duke 15, Tennessee up to 16. Welcome Vols. I've learned my lesson. A&M 17, Florida State 18, Baylor 19, and then I just have a Big Ten team 20 because I do think the second best Big Ten team is at least frisky. But that's my tier. I'm like, those in my mind are the 20 teams that will matter heading into the NCAA tournament. Matter most.
I mean, I would throw I would throw both the Big Ten. You didn't say Harvard in there, did you?
I left Harvard out because, respectfly, what's Harvard's signature win this season? I was a believer in them eye test wise, but they don't have one.
Right. They have the talent. It seems like on paper, but I think that both. Again, it's eye test, yes. On what looking at actual results, it's hard to say. I believe both UCLA and Michigan State could both
Absolutely.
As the 2 and 3 seeds, even in the Big Ten, like one of them could win it, and one of them, could very easily be very dangerous. UCLA could still get a top 16 hosting spot. I don't think Michigan State can get there, but they could both be very dangerous in the NCAA tournament if fully healthy. Look, Spencer Johnson's back. He played 5.
Hmm.
Spencer Johnson played 5 in the
That
last match.
sounds like something someone told you as we were doing a
Yeah,
broadcast
I
on
I
Sunday.
didn't ask where he was submitted this week, but it's going to be interesting to see just how the Big Ten plays out. I think Thanos is listed at 1, Ozon 2 for the tournament this week, um, but both dangerous. I would include both of them, but that's probably where I'd draw the cut at that tier.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, that's the big piece left on the board. Big Ten Men's Tennis Championship coming up this week. Ohio State plays the winner of Illinois, Oregon, round 1. That's a crazy thing to say out loud. Washington, Nebraska, the 4-5. UCLA plays the winner of Michigan, Northwestern, round 1. USC, Michigan State, the rematch, opening match. I'd love to see Michigan State, UCLA play again. Love to see USC. Again, I'm excited to see all of these matches. I will be locked into Big Ten Plus because I got a lot of questions about these Big Ten teams, and I need to see it all play out.
Well, I will be there, so I will
You're
see it.
going to Columbus?
I will be there Friday. That may be the only
Ah.
day I'm there. Here's the deal. Michigan's got to win over Northwestern Thursday to buy me time there Friday, because then they'd be playing Friday. I have to at least go pick up my sister and brother-in-law who will be there watching. I'm their ride back here, so I have to go. So yeah, I think that's the third match, and so I probably won't necessarily get to see Ohio State, but the match before and after I will obviously get to see good parts of, and that would be the Nebraska Washington and the Michigan State USC matches, along with hopefully a Michigan UCLA match. But yeah, I'll be up there Friday.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We might get another Pepperdine San Diego rematch and the opportunity to see those two teams play twice within a week. Something always special happens when it's a rematch like that. We do still have a few more pieces left on the board, but folks, again, selection show is Monday. If I had to guess, I would say we will be live here on this show at some point Monday evening, breaking down the men's and women's draws. Probably myself, probably John Parsons, probably Chris Halioris, of course. We got a lot of thoughts, and we got lots of live shows. We got lots of coverage ahead. No one's more locked into May Madness.
Are we going to
than
get
our
to see any friendly faces on the selection show, Gruskin?
I think I've said it. Yes, you'll see my friendly face, shaven, by the way, as well. Certainly will be shaven. Certainly will have a hat on as well. I think I'm going to go crack rackets over ITA. We'll see if I get a call from Dave saying no, please go ITA. But I'm very excited. It's my favorite stretch of the season. Certainly, how could it not be? It's postseason time. The action, the adrenaline. It'll all be there. Of course, again, most popular man, Chris Halioris. Everyone can use your website to follow all the action. Do you have any final thoughts for us before we wrap tonight's show?
No, I'm out.
All right, I like to hear it. Well, again, yeah, coaches, you all got his number. You've got mine as well if you got any scoops for me, any thoughts you want to share, any debates you want to have. I'm always good for a 15-minute phone call. So you all know where to find us. Shout out to all of you who do tune in, who take the time. We sincerely appreciate your support. A shout out, as always, of course, to our super producer, Daniel Westhoff, for the job he does. What is it, what is it, Chris?
The fuck of an editing job, day in, day out.
Makes everything possible. Shout out to Westhoff. I thank you, of course, to Associate Head Coach Matt Lucas, who took the time to join us here tonight as well. With that said, for the fantastic Chris Halioris, our super producer Daniel Westhoff, and from all of us here at both Crack Rackets and Believe Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. We didn't talk Ole Miss job. We'll do that next week, I promise. For now, though, Chris, what do we tell all of our listeners?
Hey, great shot.
And we will see you all on Monday. Thanks, everyone.